Well, hello, Bettina. How you doing?
Hi, Eric. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. Hello, everybody. How was your week, Bettina?
My week was good. I'm just bopping along. I've been kind of tired this week, so I feel like I haven't been as productive as I should be. But you know, some days are diamonds, some days are coal, or however that those song lyrics go.
Yeah,
and and it's all part of being not beating yourself up and being okay with it to a certain extent. You know, Yes, I mean, look at if there's something that you can change if you want to be more productive, or just saying, you know what, I had an unproductive week. It happens.
yeah.
So it's kind of like that. But I feel like I'm in a good place right now, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice, to be kind to yourself, and hopefully you can find some space to do the things that are nice. We talk on the show a lot about being your own best friend, and if you feel like you're being unproductive, you can rather than beat yourself up, you can just ask yourself why. Like, do you need more sleep? Do you do you need to eat better? Do you what's going on, and think about ways that you can help yourself. I know today I took a 3 hour nap. Now I know
Nice.
I'm lucky that I don't work during the daytime, and I have to go to work tonight now for 5, 6, 7 hours, after the show and so on. But just carving out that time for yourself if you need it, and just listen to your body. I was up and about, and as I was like, you know what, I'm getting a little bit tired, so head back to bed, and it just feels amazing, and it feels so nice, and you like yourself.
Yeah.
Imagine
I,
that.
I I'm not a napper, but yesterday I had a little nap around 5 o'clock. It was maybe, well, I don't even know if it was even an hour, but I had spent 2 nights of not great sleep because well, the one night, I don't know why, I woke up at 4:30 and just couldn't get back to sleep. But the other night, the next night, I pulled a muscle here at choir. I think I was fighting with a chair, trying to get it back in the stack. And I didn't feel, you don't feel anything right away. And then I go back to, we're singing our last couple of songs, and I'm standing there and I'm thinking, why is there this pain now shooting up into my head? And by the time I got home, I could barely move my neck. But there was a big knot right here on my shoulder. And so it was a little uncomfortable sleeping. So I had a little nap yesterday. It was kind of nice. It's a luxury for me because I have a hard time justifying it. But
Yeah, and to each their own. I know some people say
yeah,
that they just can't nap, or they don't like it, or they feel
yeah,
bad when they wake up, and but that's the whole thing about just asking yourself what it is that you need,
yeah,
and then giving it to yourself so that you can go about your day and happily produce.
yeah. I think I'm starting to get a little better with it. I think it depends also, how productive I've been during the day, if I deserve it or not, which is, another whole conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The Italian Catholic, it's hard to
Yeah,
break.
all that
Yeah,
guilt. But anyway,
yeah. Uh, so today's show, we wanted to talk about the value of therapy. It's something that or having a life coach, or just having somebody to talk to in a way that's constructive, and in a way that somebody who can hold you accountable in the situations where you need that. And I know that obviously Bettina and I are really big proponents of having somebody like that in your life, and the value, because for me it's a kind of almost about life efficiency. I get, even within a day, within a microcosm and a macrocosm, about if I feel like I'm working hard but going down the wrong path, or going down a path that isn't serving my end goals, I get frustrated really quickly. I'm really quick now to realize if I'm living in a way that I don't want to be. That takes practice. That takes a lot of work to pull yourself out of a system that you're not fully congruent with, and figuring out where you are and where you aren't. Um, and I find it's really, really valuable to. I mean, I know that there was a long time in my life where I didn't really have any clear goals, and I always kind of bristle at the goal setting and review kind of space, because life isn't necessarily about simply bringing accomplishments or milestones into your life, especially if they're vapid. They have nothing on the other end, or they're you've swallowed their value from somebody else or from society or from advertising, what have you. But really taking the time to clarify what it is that you want in your life and how you want to live your life, and then keeping yourself accountable from time to time, like stopping, creating the gap, as you always say, which I really resonated with the first time I heard it, and really asking myself, I could spend an afternoon of working or toiling away at something, and then realize at the end of it, like, yeah, I worked hard, but what am I doing? I'm not even creating from this work what it is that I want for my life. And so keeping on that path, and that can be achievement focused, that can be career focused, that can be production focused, but it also can be relationship focused. What kind of relationship do I want? And having the guts really to do an audit on yourself and your relationships, and ask yourself, are these relationships working in the way that I want them to work? And we talk sometimes about the stress of the holidays and things like this. And I think that's where it comes out the most, is where you can spend 7-8 hours beholden to some tradition that doesn't work for you anymore, and you've spent all this time, but what did you really get out of it? You really only got resentment, you really only got frustration. You didn't actually have the experience you wanted to have, but just kind of went along with it. And I guess that's a good example in relationships, as it is a good and it can extend to your personal life and your professional life, and also your romantic life, because there are times where we do things with our partner. We can spend a day, we can spend years pursuing stuff that we actually don't really even want, thinking that we're satisfying our partner's needs, without even asking truly if we are. And I think that having that life coach, having that therapy, having not a psychiatrist, because they'll likely just throw pills at you, but a psycho. Oh boy, the word escapes me. If you can help me here.
Psychologist.
Psychotherapist.
Psychotherapist. There's so many different
Yeah.
names of psychologists and psychotherapists, and
Right.
yeah, it's confusing at best.
Yeah, but to have somebody like that in your life who can help you and ask you questions, reflect back to you to make sure that you're staying on the path of the life that you want to live.
Yeah, I think counseling, there's so many different, as you said, there's so many different ways in which it can help you in your life, and not necessarily, I think when we think of counseling, we think of, you're a little bit crazy, or you're emotionally unstable, or you haven't got your life together. And I don't really think that's true. I think most people that seek counseling have their life together enough to reach out and
Right.
ask for the help. And so I think the stigma that's been attached to it in the past is slowly being lifted. I think there's still some stigma depending on who you see. And yeah, it could be for, if you're a goal-oriented person, it could be for goal setting, either career or, that's the thing now, is there's so many different types of counselors available. There's business coaches and life coaches. There's you name them all. And, what is it that you're looking for, and who is it that you need to see in order to, find what you're looking for. And within that particular, genre, is this particular person that you're seeing, do they resonate? Like, are you like-minded in your thinking and your approach, and how you set goals and how you do things? So it's a really personal thing, and it's so valuable. At many different times in our lives, we go through, they talk about the 7-year itch, and there's lots of stuff out there about the 7-year segments of your life, and how during each 7-year segment it's a different stage of your life, and when the 7 years is up, sometimes there's a life-altering experience. It may be a tiny one, it may be a huge one, but it is life-altering, because it puts you in a place to redirect your life and go in a different direction, or just look at the world in a different way, or look at yourself in a different way, or look at your relationship in a different way. And I think it's really important that if you are struggling and if you are unsure of what to do in your life, getting someone to hear you out, to listen, that third party who's, non-biased, to sit and hear what it is you're struggling with, or what it is, that you're finding difficult to, what decision you're finding it difficult to make. I think it's really important to get a sense of, because we get buried far too much sometimes in our own analysis of our lives, or in that place of wanting to be loved and doing things for the sake of being loved. Like you said, it may not be the right thing for the other person. It may not be the right thing for you, but you're doing it because you are still on some level thinking that that's where the love is going to come from. And one day you think, this isn't working anymore. I've got to do something, whether it's changing who I am, as far as the way I see the world and my perspective on things, and on perspective on my relationship, and on my partner, or my work, or my, life in general. Yeah, I think it can be really helpful to just reach out and talk to somebody who can maybe help you see it from that, without the emotional attachment, and ask the right questions. I always, when I was coaching, I always thought one of the most important things I could do as a coach was to ask the right questions. Not about give the answers, but ask the right questions that will help the individual to really start looking at things in a different way, and perhaps looking at it from a perspective that they hadn't really thought of before. So I think they can be really, really helpful. On the other hand, I think sometimes they can be detrimental if we get too attached to that person. It's like, people can get attached to a medium, or a someone who will read their cards for them, or whatever. Like, they can't make a move without going to see their card reader or whatever. I think you can get attached to any modality. I think you can get attached to a psychiatrist. I was watching Suits last night, and for anybody who watches Suits, Lewis is the sort of emotional wreck of the show, and he's been going to the psychiatrist for forever. And I sort of looked over at Peter and I said, I don't think he's getting any better, because why is he still going there after all these years? There should be some progression. There should be. I don't think a counselor or a psychiatrist or whatever, whoever you, life coach, whatever, is someone that you should get that attached to. So there's many different levels, and there's many different cautions, and many advantages to looking for help. And sometimes a friend can act as counselor too, if they can, sort of take themselves out of the picture and just listen to you objectively. So whatever way that we choose to find some kind of support, I think the important thing is to reach out and ask for support when we really need it.
Yeah. I think, as you finish off by talking about the character in Suits, I do think that TV actually does a bad job of representing what like real therapy is, or what it's like. And I know there's a lot of like stigma attached to it. You think like, oh, you're crazy and you're sitting on a couch and somebody's like picking apart your brain through hypnosis or questions or what have you. And it's just not the way that it is. I don't know if that was the case in the 70s and 80s and that became how it was presented or something, but a decent therapist and up. It's not like that. And for anybody who hasn't gone, whether it be to any one of the modalities or even group therapy or even like AA or something like this, where it's actually quite a nice experience. And sometimes we can make it up to be too big in our head, and we wouldn't want to admit it to anybody that we're going. But I really think that we would do well as a society to um, destigmatize, because it's not like that. I've been lots in my life. And I'm in this space, and I read the literature, and I read how to be a practitioner. Um, and it's not like that at all. And I know some people like bristle, especially men at bristle at the idea of like admitting or asking for help. Again, it's not even like that. It's just more somebody who can keep you accountable, to you living a life congruent with what it is you say you want to experience in this life. And it's like life is too short. And I think that sometimes the reason why we reject or don't want to go is because we know we don't want to look. We know that our life isn't the way we want it. Uh, and we really don't want to be given a reminder, or to see more of that dissonance between what it is that we want and what it is that we're living. And that's why it's just so incredibly valuable to do it yesterday, to go today, right? Like as soon as you can, because the bigger these things get, the more that you're going to resist them. And, you talk about like the 7-year itch and you live your life in these 7-year segments. And part of the reason is because we just haven't been auditing our life along the way. And then all of a sudden we get 7 years in, we've naturally changed. Maybe there's been a lot of growth. Maybe there's just been a little bit. Maybe we've just been on the treadmill of keeping all the balls in the air. And then we look back and be like, oh my God, it's 7 years later. I'm 7 years older. and my life isn't where I thought it would be when I put my head down 7 years ago to go do this. And so by using these valuable people who can really help you, in small ways, in ways that are manageable. It's not like you have to like break up with your husband and go, leave the kids and go live up in a cabin in the north or something like this and do yoga 14 times a week. It's not like that. They help you look for areas in your life where you can start to get a little bit more of what it is that you actually want, what it is that is actually fulfilling to you. And kind of gives you the keys back to your life, and to remind you that you still have power in this. You may be committed, you may have responsibilities, you may have things that you can't break because of people are relying on you, but there's 168 hours in a week, and there's things that we can do in small ways to make your life more fulfilling. There's also ways that we can think about things in another way that can take you from absolute resistance to an activity you do to a place where you look forward to doing it. And really, it's just a series of asking ways in which the thing that you're resisting can align with what it is you want to do in life, and how you can focus on the payoff. And, focusing on the payoff is also a reason why this character probably goes to the psychiatrist for the entirety of the show. And of course, he's just representational of people that we know in our lives, who are just addicted to their own drama. And the old Dr. Phil creeps up in my head, like, what's your payoff? Why are you doing this? You're getting something from it. And is there a better way that you can get what it is you're doing, what it is you're getting from this drama that spins your wheels, and if not, just simply self-sabotages your life? And these are all really valuable points.
Yeah. I didn't realize Dr. Phil says that. I remember saying that way back. It's like, why can't I change? Well, there's a payoff. That's why you're not changing. You're not letting go of it because there's a payoff. What do you mean there's a payoff? I'm miserable. That's probably the payoff. People don't think the payoff is necessarily a bad thing. They think it's only something good, but it can be something negative as well. One thing I wanted to say is your counseling sessions are only as effective as your willingness. It's directly related to your willingness to be totally honest. Mm-hmm. Because I know when I went to a psychiatrist, I wasn't totally honest with him. And while I felt a temporary relief from mostly the drugs for my panic attacks. I, in the long term, was no happier than when I started. But I think you can't go into counseling with the idea that this other person is going to fix all your problems for you and you don't have to have a vested interest in it. That's not how it works. You are there to get guidance so that you can sort yourself out. And I was going to say something else about the reason that we don't go, that we put it off going to counseling is because I think we have a pretty good idea of what the situation is. But we think that the only option is to give up whatever it is we're holding on to. And that if we go to see a professional, they will confirm that for us.
That's right. We don't want to make that change. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not always the case. I mean, I've worked with couples that were having trouble and they got closer after coming to see me. I've also worked with couples that split up. So it's not necessarily going to be what you fear the most. There could be different options that you're not seeing, that because you're so stuck in where you're at, and you're stuck in the unhappiness, and you can't remember why you started doing it in the first place, whatever the situation is. If it's a relationship, you can't remember why you fell in love with this person in the first place, right? Because you've gotten so stuck in the mess of daily life and having kids and worrying about money, and that all interferes with the person-to-person interaction that was happening before all those worries and fears came to the surface and started becoming a big part of your life. So sometimes it's just a reminder of why you're in the relationship to begin with, or why you're in the job to begin with, or whatever the situation is. Not necessarily a relationship, but life situation.
Yeah, it's really almost obvious why relationships degrade. People have this idea that the beginning is where all the fireworks are, and then from there it just peters out. And it's really obvious. As the reason is because there's not enough communication. There's not enough communication with yourself. You're not truly showing up, asking for what it is that you need in this moment or in this day. You set those things up when you had those long talks into the night 6 years ago, and you just kind of go off of that framework, even though much has changed, and you don't have enough communication with yourself, enough honest communication with yourself, so that you can bring the results of that into honest conversation with your partner. And maybe you and your partner aren't in an emotional place where you could even be honest, because there's things that both people need to work on to foster open communication, to not be defensive, to be able to look for the solution, to not point the finger, to not have blame. And it's really complicated, but it really is a function of degrading communication, first of all, with yourself, and then secondly, with your partner. And I like what you bring up about how we're afraid to go because we're afraid of the help, and they really don't do this. They don't tell you should break up or that you should stay together. That's not their role. And they don't, if they do that's unless it's like the most extreme situation where there's abuse going on, like there really is no, that isn't what they do. For anybody who is afraid of that happening, if you're afraid of that happening, you're probably projecting because you should be out, or that you should be a better partner yourself, and don't want to admit it and don't want to make the changes. But really, the truth will set you free. As much of it as it's a cliche, and it's hard to understand unless you dissect it. Whatever it is that is the truth, that is freeing. That is wonderful to find out. Wouldn't you rather find out if you are forward compatible with this person you've been with for 8 years? And if the answer is no, then how can you lovingly go about getting what it is you want from life? And perhaps through some communication, you can find out that yes, there still is lots of forward compatibility. We've just been irresponsible in keeping this relationship up. And part of my commitment is to do the work on myself to make the small changes, just small changes right now, over time, the equal big changes that will help us. And then if you do that, boy, oh boy, the payoff is going to be great. Payoff of added intimacy, added tenderness, added feelings of love again, of, passion even, of not lying. Boy, it's such a great payoff. But the truth, you need the truth to make any progress. And as long as you hold the status quo and are unwilling to communicate with yourself and your partner, it's just going to continue to degrade little by little. 1 percentage point every 40 days, it'll get worse. And that's no way to live. Life's too short. Look in the mirror. Youth and wherever you are, you're youthful. But we don't have enough time to be living this life as rich as we are, as much opportunity as we have, benefiting from what our previous generations fought and sacrificed for. We have all of that at our fingertips. It's too short. We're too blessed to live a life where we're upset most of the time.
Yeah, I agree. And yet we do it anyway.
That's right. Because we can't help it. Because we feel we're powerless. We can't help it.
And there's so much help out there that we just turn our back on.
That's right. Because with pride and how we would look to others.
Yeah. And the payoff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I don't want to admit, and I know that we're coming up to the end of the show, but when you talk about going to psychiatrist, I know that was in your first marriage, and a couple of decades ago, and the struggles there. We talked off screen or off show about the struggles, and with my mom passing from addiction, your first husband passing from addiction. How much I'm sure you would have implored or asked, or tried to highlight the benefits of therapy, of counseling, and how much I believe that could have helped my mom. But it's the same reasons, pride, didn't want to do it, didn't want to admit what had gotten so bad, and instead relied on pills and relied on self-medicating with alcohol and getting pills from the doctor. And, while some situations can call for that, long term, it's not a solution. And it's your only shot. It's your only reasonable long-term shot at finding that fulfillment. If you're not doing it on your own by reading lots of books, and consuming tons of material, whether it be on YouTube or this show, or even, it can get you started. It's your only shot. It really is your only shot to get honest, to talk with somebody, to have somebody help you give yourself permission to make changes, however small they need to be today, tomorrow, this week. It's your only shot. And if it doesn't work, well, it was your best shot. So, let's not squander it just through pride and saying, oh, it's not for me. I'm scared of what it'll show me. That's no way to live. That's so defensive.
Yeah, absolutely. The help is there. You just have to ask.
Yeah, I know. And in a lot of cases, people with regular jobs, it's subsidized or free for a while, or for a number of sessions, depending on where you work. And if not, it's still worth it. It's still worth $100.
Well, and what's interesting is I remember my doctor telling me that there's counselors that will do the pay what you can.
Mm-hmm.
So you just find someone like that. There are a lot of options.
Yeah. And people, people who get into that job for the right reasons, they will do pay what you can. They will do, if you don't have benefits, they're doing that job to help. They're like nurses, I mean, I can't imagine being a nurse. I can't imagine going to work every day, and, God bless them for what they do. And there's people who are like nurses for your mental health. And that's what these people are. And they go into it for the right reasons, and they just want to help. It's just their calling in life. And, there's lots of options, like you said. And I just really want to point out to demystify and to make it less scary, because it really isn't. It's incredibly liberating and beneficial.
Yeah, very much so.
Well, we've used our half an hour going off on the benefits of it, because I mean it's just something I believe in so wholeheartedly, uh, and it's been a massive benefit to my life and has given me my life back to me. Otherwise, I'd be living out some other person's version of what success is, what's worthy, what's valuable, and I would have found myself in that 7 year uh, quarter life, midlife crisis.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I
Mm.
I wouldn't have the life I have now if it hadn't been for, reaching out and getting help. So I'm grateful for that. And no matter how scary it is on the outset, it's so much more freeing and life changing
Yeah,
on the back end of it. So,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. It really does highlight where we're being controlled by fear. Yeah, but
absolutely.
we're at the end of the show, Bettina. How do you feel about sending us off with a meditation into our day?
I always feel good about that.
Good.
So let's close our eyes, take a deep breath, and breathing deeply into the center of your being, connecting with that place inside you that knows who you truly are, that sits in peace, in love, beauty, that you that is beyond identity, beyond gender, beyond age, beyond judgment and criticism, beyond guilt and shame, beyond sin and remorse. That you that is at peace with every action, every word, that knows the truth and that wants to be set free, wants to be expressed out into the world with love and kindness and hope. And it is from that place and in this perspective that you will find the courage to reach out for help if you so need it, to finally look at the things in your life that you want to change, the things that you're unhappy with, the things that hold you back. And from this place, make the changes that are necessary in how you see your life, how you see yourself, and how you see the world. It really all starts from this place. So reach in and touch that beautiful being that can be your counselor, your director, your teacher, to show you where to go in your physical presence in order to find your way back to who you really are. And when you're ready, wiggle your fingers and your toes and bring yourself back to the world.
Thank you, Bettina.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you all again next week.
Have a great week, everyone.